So, welcome everyone to this talk about security in the Odoo framework. I am a cyber security engineer at Odoo, and the main task of my team is to track down vulnerabilities in the code of Odoo itself, as well as fixing those vulnerabilities. And in general, we are also handling the security of the cloud services, such as Odoo Online and Odoo SH. And we also raise awareness about security among the employees at Odoo, such as sending simulation of phishing to employees, for instance. So today I will present you the main aspect of the security provided by the framework, as well as what we do in the company to raise awareness amongst employees about security in general, phishing, and so on. If you have any question, please feel free to go to that URL and ask those questions. I will reply to them later. But first, before going deep into the framework and everything, like the technical stuff, I will give you a little insight about what happened as security events in the past year at Odoo. You know, something a bit captivating to pique your attention. So, in the past few years at Odoo, we had an increasing number of of brute force attacks, meaning that they were more and more sophisticated, and we had to put more and more sophisticated heuristics to counter them. We also had more and more denial of services attacks. We have one case in particular where we were actually under a denial of service, so Odoo.com was down. And some guy of Twitter said, "Oh, but I noticed that your website is down. I can help you to save you and fix the problem." Of course, he was not just only a savior. He was actually the perpetrator of the attack, and he wanted to, against a bit of bitcoins, remove the denial of service. And it was a bit funny because on that time, I was in charge of social engineer the attacker, while the other rest of the team was trying to find out a technical solution to the problem. And in the end, it helped a bit because he stopped his attack. During the attack was stopped, they found the issue, and then when he started again, it was no longer working. Then, at Odoo, we also have an increasing number of phishing targeting employees directly. Like, it's not a single generic phishing. They know the name of the employee, they know their role in the company, they know the name of their managers, and so they can tailor-made the phishing attacks against our employees, and it's coming more and more often, and it's more and more sophisticated as we grow. We also have phishing attacks targeting our customers directly, so they basically pretend to be Odoo. They send them fake invoices with not our bank account in order to receive money on their bank account, and it's increasing as well. Then we have an increasing number of attacks or malicious use of the cloud platform like Odoo Online. Like, they use Odoo Online as a email spamming platform. They send tons of emails from our platform to customers all over the world, and we try to counter this. They are also using Odoo Online to make their phishing website. Like, they pretend to be, I don't know, the PlayStation Store, and they start selling things, but it's actually not the PlayStation Store, it's them. This is an example of what we received. This one is not so sophisticated, like it's almost nothing. It's just addressed to finance@odoo.com with the name of our CEO, asking to send money to a bank account. This is not sophisticated at all, and those we received like every day, and of course it doesn't work. What more sophisticated we had is an actual use of a deepfake. So an attacker video called one of our accountants, and they deepfaked our CFO. So on the video, it looked like our CFO. The voice was our CFO. So everything looked like the CFO. And it was asking to the accountant to transfer 1 million euros because Odoo was going to go public. So it was to create an IPO. And it had to be secret because no one can know that we are going public. And also, that employee in particular will get a raise after this going public, and everything. So there was a lot of red flags, and thanks to this, the accountant didn't fall into the trap. Like, there was the flag of it's a secret, there is something urgent, it's too good to be true, so it had to be false, and it was false. So it didn't fall into the trap, but it was a bit interesting to see that they actually use a deepfake attack against us. Then what we had in the past year as well is a number of more infected computers. So basically, employees were installing, I don't know, games from place they shouldn't download games from, or installing fake crypto wallets, and then their computer get infected. With those Trojan installed on their computers, they retrieve the password saved in your Google Chrome, in Firefox, or something. Then they gain access to Odoo.com as an employee, and then they can start sending more phishing emails to internal channels of employees at Odoo to spread even more into the company. And for instance, no longer than 2 weeks ago, one of our employees got his Discord account leaked, and he started to send fake Steam gifts on all the Discord channels internally. So of course we saw it immediately. We banned his account temporarily the time that that the employee changed his password, but in the meantime it actually did work. So we can see that there was a fail here, as the employee was not enough aware of the security implication of downloading not good games on a computer where he's logged in as an employee. We also have more suspicious activities on our app platform, so the App Store of Odoo. So there is one thing is carding attacks. So carding is basically attackers who found list of credit cards on the dark web, and they want to see if they are working or not. So they make small purchases on appsodoo.com to see if the credit card is still working. So this is what a carding attack is, and we noticed some on our App Store, and we started to block them. We also have a weird behavior of an IP in China that was starting to pay random apps, but for their actual amount. So he paid for 20,000 euros of apps, but we don't know why he did that. We still blocked him because it was suspicious, but at this hour we still don't know what was the point. In the end, the partner that was reselling the apps got the money, so he's happy. But maybe the goal was to sell the code to another platform. This we don't know. We did what we could. But this is the game with any app store like ours. We have also more and more credential stuffing attacks. So basically, it's when they got a list of credentials that they found online. In that list, there are user credentials. They are not linked to Odoo directly, but as they have millions of them, they just try them out on Odoo in the hope that one will work, because a lot of people use the same password everywhere on every account. So in the hope it will work, they try to brute force Odoo to see if one is working. And sometimes it does work, like they did a successful login once or two. And it became more and more, like at the very beginning, we rate limited the IPs. Then they noticed that we did that, and so they started to use a botnet of 1 million IPs. And this is quite a milestone to be attacked by a 1 million IPs botnet. So it means that an attacker took control of 1 million computers all over the world and started to make attacks on Odoo.com. So at this point, taking control of 1 million computers, it's not even one person, it's an organization. And it's a milestone in the meaning that Odoo got enough interesting for those kind of organizations to attack us. And then to reduce that credential stuffing, we rate limited the behavior instead of just the IPs, because rate limiting the IPs was no longer an option because of that botnet. It wasn't enough sufficient, so we rate limited the browser fingerprint, so user agent, the size of the screen, things like this. It wasn't enough anymore, so we ended by doing the CAPTCHA. Like we don't like this, we don't like to put a CAPTCHA on our login, but we had no more choices. Like this was the last possible protection we could put. Then the last thing, this one is pretty recent. Some of the partners started to receive emails telling that, are you interested in the list of Odoo experience attendees? And for a reseller partner, it's quite interesting because it's potential opportunities to get that list. And one of those partners contacted us like, is it true? Do they really have the list of Odoo experience attendees? Is it a data breach in Odoo? So we played the game. We asked that partner to ask for a sample of the attendee list, and it was on that sample. None of the emails sent was actually in the attendees. So again, if it's too good to be true, it's most likely false. So if you received any of those emails, it's fake. Like we didn't breach any data there. The list of attendees of Odoo experience is not on the wild. So now that I explained what happened in Odoo in the past year and past few years, I can talk about the security features into Odoo. So now it's the feature only. I will go to the code afterwards. So I will do the basic because I cannot do every feature of security feature of Odoo. I will just do the basic. So as we grow, as Odoo grow, we need to pay more and more attention to the right we give. Like it needs to be as least access as possible for each employees. And this is not that we don't trust the employees, it's more that if their account gets leaked, then the attacker is less possible right as possible. So into Odoo, you have on each user a list of groups that you can assign, and it's role based. So if the employee is an accountant, you give him the accountant role, and then he gets all the access rights he needs to fulfill his role of accountant. It's granular, so you can tell, okay, this one is an accountant, he's also a developer, so you can put both and things like this. Those access rights, they work with two concepts. There is the what we call the ACL, so the access control list, which is the first layer of access into Odoo. It gives access to the whole model, the whole table. So in this example, a salesman, he has access to read, write, create of any with the ACLs only, he has access to the whole model, the whole table of leads. Then the administrator, he can, in addition, delete. But this is not enough. Like, you don't want to give a salesman access to all the leads. So to refine those rules, you have the record rules below, where you can select which records an employee, a salesman would have access to. So in this case, if you look at the second line, it would be only his own leads or the leads which are not assigned to him, to anyone. The administrator, on the other end, would have access to all the leads. In addition to this, there is a blue line. This is what we call a global rule, like there is no group on it. And it means that it's applied to whatever the group of the people, and it's connected with an end between the two other rules. So, for instance, if I summarize, the admin, you can see everything because there is that 1 = 1, but only from its own company, because there is a global rule telling you can see the leads of your own company only. And for the salesman, it will be your own company only and your own lead. So this is the access right in Odoo. The multi-factor authentication, it's nothing new. Like every app and every website is doing it. It's just a good recall that you should activate it because there is still a lot of people not using it despite the fact it's available. And there is a useful info is that you can make it mandatory through email. So by default, you can put it on your app, like a Google Authenticator, Apple Passwords, Bitwarden, and so on. But if you don't want to impose to your employees to use those apps, you also have the email TOTP. So basically, it will send a code to your email that you need to fill on your login. And this would be enough because even if the password would be the same between Odoo and the Gmail account, for instance, on the Gmail, most likely there is a two authentication as well. So you wouldn't be able to access the Gmail because it's protected by a two-factor authentication. You also have logs everywhere, and it's super important to have good quality logs into Odoo, because it will log important security events, like there is a change of password, someone tried to log in but it failed. It's good to have those logs into the server logs. It's also used to rate limit things, like if someone is doing a lot of logins, we can see that he's doing a lot of logins coming from the same IP, and then we can rate limit it. It's also used to see if the server is slowing down, like you have the response time at the end, so if something is getting slower and slower, we can see it and act according to it. This is, for instance, how we detect credential stuffing attacks. When there is too much login at the same time on a server, then we can tell that there is a credential stuffing attack. And then our infrastructure team can do something about it. This one is a feature that we added last year in Odoo 17, so it's still available in Odoo 18. Where you can say if a bank account is trusted or not. So by default, when you enter a new bank account, it's not trusted. And to be able to check that box trusted, you need to have a special group, which is not just accountant. It's really a standalone group telling, I followed the training to be able to say if that account is trusted or not. And what is the training? It's basically that the accountant must have called the vendor to make sure that this is actually his bank account and not a random bank account he saw on a PDF. and it seems like nothing, but this is the attack which is the most successful, like sending a fake PDF invoice and then sending the money away. It's like the most common one we have to face every day at Odoo. So it looks like nothing, but it's super important to have this now and to have the accountant trained to not send money on the first bank account they see. This one is a new feature that we added in 18. It's actually available since 17.4 on the Odoo Online. It's the passkeys. So it's the ability to sign in using either a YubiKey, so it's a physical device that you have plugged in your computer, but it also works with Apple Touch ID and also Windows Hello. I would like to make a video of that, a demo of that, but I will do it at the end to make sure I'm not messing with the setup for the moment. So I will do it just before the questions. And using Windows Hello, it means that you can sign in with your face. So with the webcam, I can sign in with my face. It looks like nothing, but if we start to introduce other features, like regular signing, it would smooth things up to sign in regularly. Like you just need to show your face, you do not need to type a password, and then it just sign in you back quite smoothly. It's a huge security measure against phishing attacks, because you need a physical device. It's not just a password and a TOTP, it's a physical device. And in addition, the browser, it won't send the request if it's not the right domain in the URL. So if it's a domain which look like for the user like the right domain, let's say odoo.com, but with a 0 replacing one of the O's, the user wouldn't see it, but the browser would. So the browser would not send the credential if it's not the right domain. So it's one of the best security you can have against phishing attacks. And as shown, the phishing attacks is the most common attacks. Like I think that 95% of attacks are phishing attacks. So it's super cool to have that feature into Odoo. Signing with a face, it looks like nothing because we do it on our iPhone for quite a while, but the protocol itself on browser, it has been adopted only quite recently. It's called WebAuthn. And even all the browsers are not doing the same behavior currently, like Google Chrome and Firefox. They don't do exactly the same behavior on both, and it's to show that it's quite recent. So it's quite cool to have it already in Odoo. You have it also on GitHub, and you have it also on Google. And maybe you already saw that Google is asking you, can you set up a passkey? This is it. What we added also into Odoo this year is the devices. So you are able to see in your user profile the sessions that are open with your login and password. So you can see the IP, you can see the country, and that way you can monitor where you are authenticated, and you can revoke if something is suspicious. Of course, if something is suspicious, you should also change your credentials, like your login, your password, and everything. It's also useful for administrator, because if the user doesn't see that there is something suspicious, we can, like if suddenly a Belgian employee has IPs from China, it's also useful for the administrator to see that something is going wrong. This has been there on Google and I don't know, GitHub for a while, but for instance on Discord it has been added this year only, and so we have it also this year in Odoo 18. Session timer, this one is not yet done, but we are pretty sure that we will have no choice than to release it as quick as possible. So basically it's the possibility to ask the employee to re-sign in if he was inactive for 15 minutes. Like we won't put this by default, it's opt-in, like people that want this could have it, but it becomes a requirement more and more, especially in banks and people using third-party online synchronization with banks. So we will have no choice to introduce it. There will be also another parameter where you can ask the employee to re-authenticate every 24 hours. So there is two times, the inactivity time and the last time he signed in. It would be configurable both. And if you mix it with the passkey I just shown before, things will be smooth because you only need to show your face and then it continues. Like you click, it will interrupt what you were doing. Like let's say you were opening a list, it will interrupt the showing on the list. It will ask you to sign in, and then once you sign in, it will replay what you asked before. We want it to be as smooth as possible to have a good balance between usability and security. Because on banks, for instance, if you sign in on your bank and you are inactive for 15 minutes, you need to redo everything. You need to redo the multi-factor authentication and everything. we don't really want this. We agree that there should be some kind of re-authentication, but it should be as smooth as possible. And so the passkey is a good, mixed with this, the passkey is a good solution for this. So now security into the code. This is more technical. So in Odoo, we have what we call the ORM. I will call it framework because it's easier to say. And it's designed to abstract away the query building. So you don't have to manually write SQL for developers. You just use the ORM for most of the operations. So for search, create, read, write, delete, you just use the framework. As the technology evolves and the security world evolves, we are constantly improving that framework to counter those new attacks or integrate the new technology. For instance, this year we added the typing into the framework. I think there will be a talk about this, but so we are continuously improving it. And there are improvements meant for security each year. Speaking of SQL injection, so the fact that using the framework, it abstracts away the query building. If you still need to build queries yourself, we have what we call the SQL wrapper. So it helps you to create your SQL statements with escaping parameters for you. So to make sure that you cannot introduce SQL injection in your code. And you will think that SQL injection, like it's something from ages ago, but it still happens. On the App Store, when we sometimes open an app randomly to see if there are vulnerabilities, and we can see a lot of SQL injection in those apps. And we are, of course, warning the author of those apps, but it's really, like, this is useful. We believe that nowadays no developer will introduce SQL injection attacks into the code. It's still the case. So we introduced this tool from quite a while ago, but now we are using more and more frequently into Odoo. It's also integrated directly with the framework. So for instance, if you have a field which is returned in HTML, it's not a string, it returns that, sorry, I confused with something else. But it is integrated with the framework for instance, query building. It will return an SQL wrapper, not a simple string. Now a little reminder about public and private methods. In Odoo, when you create a method in a model, if you start it with an underscore, it makes it private, meaning you cannot call it from the API, the outside API. If you don't put an underscore, it means that it's public. And so I have built a simple example there. So the first one means that it's public because there is not that underscore. And in this one, there is a SQL injection. It's done on purpose. This is the kind of thing that we see in apps on the App Store. And there, it's very dangerous because you can call that API publicly, so you can use that SQL injection. On the second line, there is still a SQL injection, but as it's private, you cannot directly call it from the API. So if you are not able to control that field parameter, it doesn't matter too much. It's still not good to have introduced a SQL injection in the first place, but at least it's mitigated by the fact it's private. And the last one is just to show that you can have a public method which is calling a private method, and as the parameter is not dynamic but it's forced, then the SQL injection cannot be used. But so it's very important, and this is what we do at Odoo. We ask every developer to always make private their methods. So when they create a new method in a model, they always add the underscore, and only when they need it on the web client, then we ask them to remove the underscore. But by default, it's with an underscore. And you have no idea how many apps we saw that do not care about this at all. They make everything public. And then the surface attack that attackers can exploit is very big. Like, the more public methods you give, the more the attacker will have possibilities to exploit your code. So just make everything private by default, and when you need it publicly, whether it's for a third-party API or because you need it for the web client, then you make it public. Markup. So markup is to write safe HTML. So it will escape things automatically for you, and it's also integrated into the framework. For instance, an HTML field would return you a markup. Rendering a QWeb would also return you a markup. There is also a concept of markup in the JavaScript. It's to tell that, okay, I am handling HTML, it should be saved somehow, and it is the review to tell, okay, this is unsafe HTML that I am, well, I am playing with the HTML. It should be saved somehow, so the security review should check that it's well handled. For more bad practice, we will have a talk about the most security issue we find into the Odoo code on Friday at 10, I think. So if you are interested into having a look at the worst or the most common issues that we find into the Odoo code, you can go to that talk. Field groups. This one I will explain quickly, but basically earlier I showed you that you can control the access right on the model and on which record you can give access right to people. What you cannot have, well, with this you can, is that if you want to limit one field among the walls model, then you can do it using groups on the field itself. So let's say that you have an access token or a password saved on a field which is accessible to all the employees, but you only want that field and private, and all the other ones you can make it available to employees. You just add the group on that field and that's it. And in this example, the access token is limited to the administrators only. And this is also something that we see quite often, that people are storing password or tokens into their models, and this model is accessible to employees or worse, to portal or public. So they don't pay enough attention to the groups that should be applied to an access token or a password. And this is the thing that now we see automatically in the CI security. So as soon as the field is called password, token, or something, there is a security check telling is there a group on this or not. Root authentication. So when you are building a root, you have the choice to make it public or for user. There is also a third one which is none, but basically it's when you do not need sessions. I will go quickly on this one. This is very technical, but on the root, there is a protection against CSRF attacks and cores. By default, you can disable them, but in 99% of the cases, you shouldn't disable them. The only case where you should disable the CSRF validation is, for instance, when you are doing a server-to-server calls, but then there should, let's say a webhook, like a webhook from GitHub, which is contacting your root. Then you can remove the CSRF, but then you should have another meaning of authentication. In the case of webhooks from GitHub, they provide an API to make sure that the signature comes from them, so you should just implement this from GitHub. It can also be a unique token, so the URL needs to be called with a token, which makes the authentication. And for the cores, so it's when you want to call your root from another website. By default, you cannot. And if you want to make it available from another website, then you can disable it, either for all the website, either for one domain in particular. Alors, this year, we have a change of API regarding the check access right and the check access rule. They've been merged together, and they have been renamed check access. It's because we found a lot of vulnerability patterns where people were misusing those check access rules, like they were using the check access right, but they forgot the check access rule. So now we just merge everything into one. It abstracts away the difficulty of understanding access control list and record rules, and everything is done into one method. And we believe that it's a better good to have less vulnerabilities on that point. There is also a new method which is called asAccess, and it will just return a Boolean instead of raising an exception. And we also have filtered access, which is meant to return the records the user has access to. So let's say there is 100 records, but only 10 are accessible to the users. It will just give you that 10 records. So now, security in the Odoo, the company. So what we do in employees to raise awareness, let's say. So first, we have certification and audit. So we have a set of security best practice into Odoo, of course. We are also doing audits, external audits from the SOC 1 and SOC 2 annually to make sure that all our processes are good, and they check that the cloud platform, for instance, is configured as they think that it should be for the best security practice, etc., etc. You can obtain those SOC audits if you want against an NDA. So there is a whole process which is meant for this. You just contact your account manager, and against your signature, basically, you get access to those audits. We also filled the Cloud Security Alliance questionnaire. So a lot of questions people have are replied in those questionnaires. It's very, very long. It was a pain to fill. So if you have any question, you can start with this. And if you don't know the answer to your question, then you can contact the security team. To develop coding, to develop the Odoo, we also follow the OWASP Top Security Risk Guide. It's the best practice thing that we can do when coding an application. I was speaking about phishing earlier, so phishing being sent to the employees. So we are raising the awareness to our employees about phishing through a training which is provided by Fished. And basically every week for 5 minutes they have a training about phishing. And it's not only phishing, it's a vishing as well. We are raising their awareness about security of the building. Like if you see someone random entering the building, you should ask who it is. You shouldn't let it go. It's known that if you enter with a ladder, you can enter everywhere. So we just ask people to make sure that they do not let in random people. And so they do this weekly for 5 minutes, so it doesn't take a lot of time for the employees until they have done the course. And we are also sending fake phishing mail, so simulation of phishing, to see if they get trapped or not. And we have data for each employee, and we can tell, okay, this one is good and this one is not good. But we do not blame the employees. Like if someone falls into a phishing trap, we believe that this is our fault. We failed training them about phishing, or the process is not right in place and fixed like this. So we also do social engineering awareness. So it's mainly for support employees because they face everyday requests like, I have lost my password, can you change it for me please? Or the IT guy from the company left and I have no longer administrator rights, can you give me administrator right on my database? It sounds silly, but this is the kind of request they have every day. So those are most likely legit, but some will not. So they are trained to make sure to authentify the author of the request before granting access, obviously. So they should call the right number and things like that. Like they shouldn't wait to receive a call, they should call the right person. For developers, we have annually security training. So what it means is that we have a physical course where we gather something like 30 employees of Odoo, and we go through technical practices, technical exercises, where there was an actual leak into Odoo. We show real examples of vulnerabilities we fixed in the past, and we ask them first to try to be the hacker, so to exploit the vulnerability, and then we ask them to fix the vulnerability. And so every developer at Odoo follows that training. It's even more true for reviewers. So if you are reviewing pull requests, you should follow that training even more, and ideally it should be renewed annually, because in a year you could have forget what this training was about. There is new vulnerability patterns and things like this, so it should be renewed every year for each developer. When you are committing a new feature into Odoo, we have what we call the run bot, which is basically running unit tests. And among those unit tests, there is what we call the CI security. So it's a static analysis of the code, which detects dangerous pattern into the code they just committed. And if there is something we believe is dangerous, in addition to the regular review, there is a security review from employees working in the security team to make sure there is no issue. So most of the things are explained, like when a developer is committing something and it's so much red, we give explanation why it is red, so they can come around it or something. If there is no choice and they still need to use those sensible patterns, then there is the security review in addition to the normal review. In addition to that CI security, we have a SQL injection detector. So each time you are committing something onto the runbot, we try to check if your commit is SQL injection or not. It's not only on runbot. This code is actually public on the open source code of Odoo. So let's say that you develop an app or a module as a partner, you could run this locally to make sure there is no SQL injection into your code. The SQL fuzzer, we don't have it yet, but we would very much like to have it. So basically, it's just an automated bot that would fill every form it can see with standard SQL injection patterns to see if there is a SQL injection or not. So it would be something additional to the SQL injection detector, because the detector is just analyzing the code. This one is actually testing it, but randomly. And with the power of both, we would avoid most of the SQL injection. Then we have the responsible disclosure. What does it mean is that if you find a security vulnerability into Odoo, you can report it to that URL address or to that email. And basically, it gets our greatest attention, obviously. Like if you find a vulnerability into Odoo, we won't let you wait for a month. We will reply immediately. And so if it is an actual valid vulnerability, we will solve it as soon as possible. And you will get credits to find the vulnerability. In addition to that email address, we actually have a bug bounty program on integrity where you can subscribe and find vulnerabilities into Odoo. And if you do find a vulnerability into Odoo, you get rewarded with 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 euros. It depends on the criticality of the vulnerability. This responsible disclosure, we have it for years, like 10 years. The integrity program, we have it for 3, but you are able to sign in to sign in by yourself only this year. Before it was selected researcher that we were selecting to make sure that not everyone could subscribe, but now anyone can subscribe. So if you believe that you can find a vulnerability into Odoo, you can subscribe and start finding vulnerabilities and report it to us. Email limits. So I explained that more and more users are using Odoo Online to send spam emails. So we just, at the very beginning of the Odoo Online, there was no limit. Like you could send as much as email as you wanted. Then there were more and more people using our platform as a spam platform. So we limited to 400 mails a day. Then nowadays it's 20 mails a day. Each time you create a new trial on Odoo Online, and it's even less than 20 emails if we find a suspicious behavior in the database you created. It's 1 or 2. If we believe that there is something wrong in your naming or in your content of the website, we will limit it to 1 mail. We also have a phishing detector. So basically it's a bot which is browsing all the website of Odoo Online to check if there is something fishy about your website. And if it does have something fishy, then we will automatically block your website so anyone cannot be trapped by your phishing. And then we have the logs aggregation. So what does that mean is that every log that we have on all the servers, like we have thousands of servers on Odoo Online, we are aggregating all of them onto one server. That way, if let's say that you find a vulnerability that gives you access to tamper the logs on your server, of an inside employee's attacker would tamper the logs on the server itself, we still have it on that centralization server logs. So you basically cannot tamper logs. We have every copy of it. So it prevents tampering, and we also preserve them for very long, and only a couple of employees have access to that server. Almost no employees have access to that server, so it limits the number of people who can tamper those logs. And for me, that's it. So, any further questions? I will have my fellow colleague that will ask the question to me that you wrote on the Ask Me Anything pad. If there have the demo as well. Ah, the demo. This I can do. Yes, this I can do. So maybe now I can mirror my screen. Okay. So for the demo. So as I said earlier, you have now the ability to sign in with a passkey. So you have an additional link there, login with a passkey. How can I zoom? And I'm on Windows on purpose today. It's to show the ability of Windows Hello. So I can just click on that link. And then hopefully the demo god will be with me. Okay, it recognized me. I can click OK. And now I am signed in into Odoo with my face. Then I also showed you that there will be an ability to sign in regularly according to the inactivity of the user. So I put a very low timeout on this database, so it will ask me immediately to sign in. So you have that little screen. Of course, it's not yet fully developed, so it might change. There is no promise there. But so, as you have seen, I clicked on one random app. I don't remember which. So I will just make it recognize my face again. And then it will continue where I was. So I open the contact apps, and that's it. So we want this experience to be as smooth as possible. And thanks to the passkey and thanks to Windows Hello in this case, it would be very smooth. So now the question, I guess.
Thank you for the great talk. Can anybody hear me?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So, on your security issue page, you just gave us in your speech, I saw that the last CVE has been filed in 2022. Is that true?
So we fixed a lot of vulnerabilities in the past year, but it's true that we have quite a delay in releasing the CVE. So we have CVEs to publish. They are already being made. We just need to publish them, and that's it. So it's true that they are. We have a delay there. We admit it, but we will release some. We will disclose some publicly very soon. Like I think in the next month or in the next 2 months, we will release some.
All right.
It doesn't mean that we didn't fix them. Like we fixed them. People get updated automatically without knowing, and that way the date gets released. Actually, you are already up to date. So it doesn't mean we don't fix them. It's just that we didn't disclose it publicly, because most of the issues, most of the security vulnerabilities, we find them ourselves. So technically they are not exploited. So there would be an actual evidence that once was actually exploited. Of course, we will disclose it publicly. But in this case, there is none. So indeed, we have a delay, but we will fill the gap soon.
All right. Underscore methods are not private in Python by default.
Yes.
You need to use double underscore. How is Odoo handling this to prevent calling normal underscore functions?
So it's not about not using those methods into the code. It's using it. We prevent to use them in the API. So when you call Odoo from the XML RPC API, methods starting by an underscore, you cannot call them. So it's not about making them private for the code itself, it's making them private for the public API. And otherwise, if we want to make them private for the code, then we have to rely on the double underscore technique, which is called dendering or mangling, name mangling.
All right. Is there a way to use Google SAML with Odoo?
For those kind of questions, I will say yes, because I'm pretty sure there is. But I prefer to, you can just send the question to security and I will make sure, or I will check later and you can come back to me later, because I prefer not to say things that are not true than actually telling lies. So I would say that yes, because there are multiple modules doing authentication, such as LDAP, such as OAuth. So most likely there is a way, but I'm not 100% sure.
All right. How do you inform on-premise and Odoo community users about big security issues, such as there was with the PDF.js a couple of months ago?
The community. Well, I guess you can come to the talk on Friday, because this is what basically we give at the training. So that talk will be a shorter version of what we give to employees, to developers, about most common vulnerabilities into Odoo. And that CI security thingy, so the thing which is run on Runbot, it actually show you the explanation why we believe this pattern is vulnerable. And so this is also kind of a training, like you have the CI security telling you that your code is vulnerable. We gave you the explanation. It's a kind of training. But I guess that if people are asking, we could do a smart class next year about security before the Odoo experience.
There is actually a question about that. So are you planning to have security trainings for partners as well as a smart class? We are even willing to pay for that.
Then we will do it.
Yeah, we spoil them.
Not a problem.
All right. Any plan to make the CI security tools accessible to outside developers to make custom app development app in the store safer?
Well, so the SQL injection detector, it's in the open source code. And it's true that currently for the Runbot CI security, it's not public. I guess we can try. So for the moment, it is indeed not public, and we are using a tool which is called semgrep to analyze statically the code, and we could release those semgrep rules. The thing is that we are fine-tuning them quite often, so we would need to change them, but I guess that we could put some kind of tools that would help partner for this. I agree that it would be a very good idea.
Mm-hmm.
It would make apps and modules in general way better and safer.
Right. I want to have a customer portal running on Odoo, but running it in an iframe in another website. However, the roots of the portal are protected against that. Any way to do it?
Well, the only way to do it is to do a custom module, removing the course, as I explained. So there is that course protection, cross-origin. I don't know the full standing, but you can disable that course thing. It's just that if you do so, you should do it very carefully. But so you create a custom module that removes those cores, because you can actually override routes one by one to just say remove the cores and keep the rest of the code. So this is doable. It's just that you need a custom module to do that. But I think that in the question it was stating that it is for a customer. I guess there was a custom module behind it.
For sure. Is there an example of CSP headers on the doc?
An actual example, I'm not sure. We have things for CSP in the code, but in the documentation, I would need to ask Julian, who took care of this not so long ago. I don't know. I would prefer to check later and to reply to this later. You can contact me directly, so I think I put my email somewhere, or you can contact security@odoo.com.
Is it planned to have encrypted backups on Odoo SH or others?
We do have encrypted backups already, so it's already done. So every time we back up something from Odoo SH, we backup it on another backup server, so it doesn't only stay on the Odoo SH server, it's sent on another server, which is encrypted. All the backups are encrypted, and only a handful of employees have access to this backup. I'm not even sure that the employees can actually access those backups. Like, they are safely protected, you can restore them, but I don't even think that an employee, he would have access to the server, but he wouldn't be able to use the backup, because everything is encrypted.
Right. How about security features in standard that are implemented through view level restrictions? For instance, being able to change the duration of a time off after it's approved through XML RPC.
I didn't follow this one.
So there are some security measures that are implemented in the view itself. So if you define a group on the field just in the XML, but if the method itself or the function itself is not protected, and you can change it through XML RPC.
So I think we are referring here as read-only the attributes on the interface. So they are in the interface fields which are made read-only for the interface, but we never consider the read-only as a security feature. Like, it's a usability thing. We don't want some users, or we don't want, in some cases, to be able to change a field, but it's not a security feature. It's more a usability feature. If you want to restrict access to that field, then you should do as I shown, putting a groups on the field itself, and then control you. So through the API, you wouldn't be able to set it anymore, and so it would be only through the method you define that you can set it. So if you want to have security measures for a specific field, then you use groups on the field itself. You do not use the read-only attributes on the view.
Is Odoo NIS2 compliant?
Yes.
How to securely handle credentials for external services, certificates, or credentials in custom modules, especially on Odoo SH?
Can you repeat again?
Yep. How to securely handle credentials for external services in custom modules.
But for instance, in Odoo, we don't put any credential in the code, never. And for what would you need this, actually? Because, for instance, there is a case on Odoo SH where you need to pull the code regularly, but for this you have deploy keys, for instance, where it's a key which is meant only to download and not tamper the code or anything. So I guess it depends. But for instance, on Odoo Online, we do not put any secrets into the servers. So I guess that the best defense is to not put secrets into your code, and that's it. Because, for instance, there are also apps, phone apps which are putting secrets into the code, but you can reverse engineer those apps. So I think that the best defense is just to not put credential into your app. I think that whoever asked this, we can talk about it later to know your use case, and most likely there is a way to avoid putting credential into your system. On Odoo SH, in the containers, there is nothing. On Odoo Online, there is nothing either. Even for the deployment, it's on the laptop of the employee deploying the server where is the secret. It's not on the server itself. I stop? No, I think it's just for the talk, but I can continue now for the questions. Okay. Yes.
Yep. Have you thought about actually having the access.role where you can define the access group so you don't need to give access to individual apps? Similar logic as quotation templates. This has been on Odoo store forever, but would be nice to have it in base.
I didn't follow. Can you repeat?
Yep. Have you thought about actually having the model access.role where you can define the access group so you don't need to give access to individual apps? Similar logic as quotation templates.
Because I don't know, because currently in Odoo the access is given by groups. Like you give access to a model for a group. You don't give for a user. The user is assigned a group and then the group has access to features. So I'm not sure to follow the question.
Yeah, maybe the person who asked the question can
yes.
Contact you directly. Okay, with Odoo SH you forbidden build on older code, but what about on-premise SND communication towards them? I'm not sure. Mass mailing for more than 2,000 emails will be sent out, or will it be limited? So do we have limits on mass mailing?
So on the SaaS there is a limit. Like if we put a limit at 400 email or whatever, and as we trust you more and more, we grant more and more emails you can send a day. So if we are referring of mass mailing on the SaaS, it's possible that indeed you are locked to 2,000 emails by day, but you can ask the support or your account manager to increase that limit. It's just that we do not grant you immediately like 200,000 emails because we need to trust you before giving you such power, but you can have more, you just need to ask the support first. And it will be done gradually. Like if you just subscribe to Odoo and you need to send 200,000 emails, this is not how it works. Like even on MailChimp and other competitors, they do not grant you as many emails as you want from the very beginning. You need to earn their trust before doing so.
Mm-hmm. So basically people on Odoo Online, Odoo SH with your mailing servers cannot use email marketing.
They can. We just need to trust you. So basically what the support will do is that they will kinda check your contact list, check the kind of emails you sent, and according to this you will get granted more and more emails. So yes, you can. It's just that if you come to create a trial and you immediately expect to be able to send 1 million email, this is actually what an attacker would do. Like it's exactly the same behavior as an attacker. So we need to be able to distinguish you from the attacker. So it's not like we need some balance. We need to trust you more and more. And so you just we just send requests to the support that will gradually increase the number of emails you can send. And I don't know what else we could do. Like, because there are attackers which are really willing to pay to get as many emails as they want. We had cases where attackers were paying to send mails about stocks and broking and things like this, which was actually scam. So they were paying to be able to send spam emails. So even paying is not a factor to tell you that you can send as many emails as you want.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Regularly, our login page is detected as dangerous by Google robots. Our customers have a big red page with dangerous website. It happens for community or enterprise. How does Odoo manage it?
So I think it's a pretty recent issue. Like I think I have seen this in the past month or even weeks. So I think we'll just investigate why Google is detecting our website as phishing. I think I saw one ticket. It was maybe because there was the links, the sharing links in the bottom of the website, which were pre-configured with default website, but I'm not even sure Google would do this. So we will, as it's pretty recent, we will just ask Google or do something. We will find why they are making us believe that our website is dangerous, and as soon as we know, we will change it. That's it.
Third-party apps often don't seem to support DB neutralization, leaving live credential on their test DBs. Is this something you look for? Modules without neutralization scripts?
We don't. For the moment, there is a lack of power from our side, a lack of resource to be able to inspect all the apps of the App Store. So for the moment, we mainly check our own code, and the App Store, we do a best effort, but we cannot check all the apps of the App Store one by one. So we don't really look for vulnerabilities on the App Store yet. I think one day will come, but these require tons of employees to be able to do so. Like Amazon is doing it, Apple is doing it, but they have tons of developers who are only doing this. We are not at this stage yet, so we are not looking for this yet on the App Store. Maybe one day it will come.
Okay. There's a question about filtered access. So you said filtered access gives back the record set that the user has access to directly. Is it something that the ORM does it automatically, or is it just something that you need to call explicitly?
No, you need to call explicitly in your code. Like if you want your code to do this, you need to do it explicitly. But by default, when you do a search into Odoo, without the need of calling this is what it does. Like here I'm seeing the contacts. By default, it only shows me the contacts I have access to. So this is the part of the record rules framework. So yes, technically speaking, it is called by default, but you do not need to call it manually. Like indeed, it is done by default by Odoo. It's just that if you need this in your development, in your code, you can call it to filter only the records your user has access to.
Yeah, I think I have read all of them, but I'm just scanning it again.
No, but I think it's okay. We are just 3 minutes early, it's okay. I think
there are questions that are being typed at the moment.
Okay, last one being typed then.
Okay.
If it comes. You have 3 minutes.
Yeah, 3 minutes to type one question. Yeah, there's another question about CVEs. I will just read that out loud until then. Is there any security-specific communication channels for Odoo security? CVE not being up to date, it can be hard to know when we need to move fast with updates.
When we will release the CVA, we will send email to all the partners we know. Like, you do not need to subscribe. We just gather ourselves all the emails of our partners, and we send it immediately when the CVA is disclosed. So you do not need to subscribe to anything. If you are a valid partner, we will send you an email. And for the people who are not partners, we are publishing it on our GitHub page in a list of CVAs and also on the Odoo website.
Okay. The stock Nginx configuration in the documentation is unsafe. Is there plans to review it?
What is unsafe?
The Nginx configuration.
Of what? Of the documentation?
The stock Nginx in the configuration, in the documentation, yeah.
What we provide is documentation for Nginx. Well, I think that I will just told to the people who said that, because I don't know why it would be unsafe.
All right.
I think that's it. I think I will call it a day. So thank you, everyone.